Here in Rustlers Valley, in the foothills of the Maluti Mountains, a journey is being made into our archaic past. An eclectic group of people have gathered to remember and reflect on the spiritual teachings of the earliest human societies. They're also here to compare notes from the incredible journeys they have made with sacred plants and to consider an extraordinary theory. Hallucinogenic plants may have been the catalysts for everything about us that distinguishes us from higher primates, for all the mental functions that we associate with humans. Our society, more than others, will find this theory difficult to accept because we have made pharmacologically obtained ecstasy a taboo. Like sexuality, altered states of consciousness are taboo because they are consciously or unconsciously sensed to be entwined with the mysteries of our origin, with where we came from and how we got to be the way we are. Such experiences dissolve boundaries and threaten the order of the reigning patriarchy and the domination of society by the unreflecting expression of ego. Since the beginning of human culture, hallucinogenic plants have been used as tools to expand consciousness and explore a wide variety of mental, physical and spiritual states, alternate realities and alternate ways of perceiving the world. The traditional healers, or shamans, of early gatherer-hunter societies used them to access visions and heal. In his book, The Wondrous Mushroom, Gordon Wasson says, in his trance, the shaman goes on a far journey, the place of the departed ancestors, or the netherworld, or there where the gods dwell. And this wonderland is, I submit, precisely where hallucinogens take us. They are a gateway to ecstasy. Shamans see these plants as living intelligences, allies and guides.
But shamanism is primarily a technology for the production of ecstasy. And ecstasy is this extremely intense human experience that combines elements of terror, orgasm, wonder and fear, transformative efflorescence and awe. It's a very unusual state. It's possible to go from the birth canal to the grave and never touch ecstasy. Sex delivers facts but not the terror, not the awe, not the self-displacing wonder that comes from the psychedelic experience or defeating some enormous enemy in physical battle or surviving a landslide or something like that. Usually we achieve ecstasy in extraordinarily extreme conditions. The exception is plants, which can lead you there gently over an hour and a half and bring you back gently 5 hours later.
And that is certainly facilitated by the use of psychoactive substances and becomes very close to a recasting of shamanic styles of healing, where the afflicted person and the shaman sit together and attain trance ecstasy through substances, plants, or some other method, and then work through the cause of the dis-ease together.
Some people, like the researcher, author, and radical historian Terence McKenna, believe that these plants may even have been responsible for the birth of human culture itself. Here in Africa, the ideal condition existed for the growth of what may prove to be a missing link, the psilocybin mushroom.
It has to be the mushrooms because it happened in grassland. It happened in Africa. It happened in the presence of activity. Only psilocybin presents itself as this low-dose light.
Psilocybin specifically activates the areas of the brain concerned with processing signals. A common occurrence with psilocybin intoxication is spontaneous outbursts of poetry and other vocal activities such as speaking in tongues. Researchers familiar with the territory agree that psilocybin has a profoundly catalytic effect on the linguistic impulse.
Psychedelics are so eerie and suppressed. It sends money landing on it. And what is it? Well, I think it's that they pose a threat to the cultural elite. That cultures are in the business of selling some kind of complex rap, which they call our cultural identity, to whatever captive population they're trying to screw up.
You do not have to be a sophisticated chemist or enter the world of street drugs to access the mushroom.
Magic mushroom growers that show you how to do it on rye in canning jars, and this has transformed many a household. And strangely enough, the cultivation of mushrooms inculcates all these amazing Calvinist values like cleanliness, punctuality, attention to detail, discretion. I mean, it just completely, if you're loose as a goose, you can't grow them. You can't more than that. And then when it succeeds spectacularly. Nature is far more creative than any synthetic chemist. We have a lot of Darwinian paranoia. The idea that nature is all tooth and claw, and that anything that comes at you with its hand extended, it wants to rip your eyes out.
Through an increasing knowledge of the chemistry of plants and its relationship to the brain, the cyber tribes of the 90s will have access to even more potent combinations and more concentrated forms of the psychoactive ingredients of these plants.
Nobody is living in a drugless world at this point. It's here to stay, folks. It's like radio. We sort of have to come to terms with this stuff.
A glacier rattles in the cupboard. The desert sighs in the bed. And the crack in the teacup opens a door to the land of the dead. The way to get the hallucinations going is to close your eyes, but look at the back of your eyelids with the expectation that you're going to see something.
To bring back an impression, so you have to, make very elaborate metaphors or find ways of treating perception or being visual. Because that's the other way to bring back an impression. Your language is utterly without dimension. That's what they're saying. Approaches a certain level of fractal hyperdimensionality, and then it can go no further. It can't formally translate itself into objectivity. It's more constrained than we had supposed. And that's why history's vicissitudes, while they provoke great anguish and soul-searching, are ultimately oscillations in a system which preserves appetite for transcendence. An organism is a lower dimensional description of the phenomenon we call time. And in fact, the mushroom said this to me once. What it said was time travel is possible into the future, and time travel is possible into the past, but only as far into the past as the invention of the first time machine.
Terence, you said that shamanism is about show business. Are you into show business?
Well, I am into show business, but I'm not a shaman. I'm in a slightly more modest branch of show business.
Sex, drugs, rock and roll?
And education.
My life is like science fiction. I feel, I don't know, the word trapped is slightly paranoid, but I feel enclosed within something like a Philip K. Dick novel, because there's a level of plottedness that would alarm a paranoid person. In other words, it seems to be the unfolding of a literary structure.
I think as you approach enlightenment, you become a linguistic black hole. And when you're finally enlightened, nobody can understand you at all because you have curved the continuum back around yourself. The fact that I make my living having people understand me convinces me I'm far from enlightenment. And the fact that it would destroy my income gives me ability to even approach it.
But beyond the psychedelic visions and entertaining anecdotes, there is a wisdom.
From the platform of a human birth, by the application of right method, whatever that is, one can, in a single lifetime, attain enlightenment.
My belief is in communication. The psychedelic thing is a subset. If we can communicate with each other, we can feel each other. And it's the absence of feeling in modernity that has permitted its inhumanity. If we could each feel our role in the destruction of the earth, the destruction of the earth would be canceled automatically. But between ourselves and our feelings, there are levels and levels of rationalization, ideological justification, historical justification, and sheer appeal to our lesser appetites. We want a Mercedes, we want a house in the country. We agree not everybody can have these things, but we somehow feel worthy. So this boundary dissolution, in my mind, this is a really key concept that we should entertain throughout time together, that we are trying to dissolve boundaries. Politically, socially, sexually, economically, intellectually, we are trying to dissolve the boundaries we hate and the boundaries that we cling to. This is the great work of the age now, the dissolving of boundaries, and nothing is so effective for doing that on a personal and immediate level than psychedelic. An assumption into the light.
So the thing is not, to take every drug that exists, but to, by a process of sort of being wooed and seduced and seducing yourself, finding out what works for you.
I'm into a kind of almost chip on your shoulder self-reliance. I think people should figure things out for themselves. I think nobody is smarter than you, and even if they are, what good is it doing? So gurus and at a distance explanations and so forth. A phrase you'll hear me use over and over again is the felt presence of immediate experience. It's actually all you've got.
I spent a lot of time, probably 100 times, leaving cannabis aside. I probably spent 100 times more time unstoned, considering what the last time being stoned meant than stoned. I mean, I regard these things like shamanic journeys, and the idea is to get in there, rescue the pearl of immortality from the dragon's claw, and get out, throw the money on the floor, and while they're all fighting over it, back out and make your escape.
One of the things you might say facetiously about psychedelics is that they're an aging hormone.
because they smarten you up in a hurry, I think. You know, the stance of seeking is so easy. Facing answers is an entirely different kind of situation. As with psychedelics, what people come to become very interested in is where are the brakes, please? How do we slow this down? How do we keep it from going over the edge? How do we keep it from terrifying us and control?
Terence, what advice would you give young South Africans?
Educate yourself. Part of what has poisoned the debate on drugs is the fact that the word is too broadly applied. We need to make it clear to our children that there are many kinds of drugs, and that each is unique, and that they are very complex factors in human behavior. In other words, to sit around saying this drug is good, this drug is bad, is a fool's game. Every drug is complicated. Every drug has its abusers, and every drug has the people who seem to profit by its application. Some appear easily adapted for reasonable purposes by most people. Some seem rather like wild horses, and few can ride. But we need to teach our children that this is one of the most complex issues they will meet in life. Besides the expression of their sexuality and the problem of how they're going to earn a living, how they shall relate to stimulation in the cultural environment is a major factor determining whether they reach maturity, psychological health, and a sense of personal well-being. So we've totally failed with this. We have not educated our children. And so the legacy of this is a lot of social problems and unhappy families and people whose full potential is delayed by episodes of drug abuse and so forth and so on. But why in the world are we so squeamish about educating our children about drugs? We just don't tell people the facts of the matter. Is it because we are so enslaved to commercial interests, or so uncaring of our children's faith? I mean, it's a curious problem. We need to just talk straight to our children. For example, if you raise a child in such a fashion as to not hide from them the facts of life, then conversation around the dinner table may revolve around the fact that so-and-so has had to go to rehab for their severe alcoholism, and so-and-so disgraced themselves at a dinner party the other night because they abused alcohol, and the child begins to get a picture that, the world of adults is fraught with these complex factors, and not all negative. If a child hears the psychedelic experience spoken of positively, they will naturally have an interest in it. I don't buy the theory that every generation is rejected by its children. I think that has happened recently and tragically in certain high-tech industrial democracies. But to assume that a parent cannot hand on wisdom to a child without rejection is preposterous. And in raising my own children, who seem, knock wood, to be doing fine, I've simply not only shared with them the facts of the matter, but shared with them the fact that the distinction between adult and child is largely artificial. In other words, much of the world confuses me. Much of social situations, sexual dealings, drugs, I find myself wishing somebody had educated and explained it all to me. You don't ever suddenly understand, we all carry with us into life blank spots in our understanding. So I consider myself at age 50 to be in a state of prolonged adolescence and ever learning and assimilating and passing on to young people, which is, I don't say child, I don't say adolescent, I say young people, whatever I know, and learning from them similarly.
What breakthroughs have been the result of psychoactive use?
In a more general sense, the whole information internet and personal computer world is filled with people roughly my age and younger who have extensive experience with psychoactive compounds.
Terence, you've traveled to many dimensions. Do you have a favorite?
A human body incarnated in time is an extraordinary tool for understanding being and meaning. And, you know, the dimensions I reach through the psychedelic substances, it's my human body and my brain metabolism that opens those doorways to me. Martin Heidegger said, an organism is neither a thing nor a process, but an opportunity opening on to the infinite. And I would apply that to human existence and name it as my favorite dimension.